You won't believe the difference a few weeks makes. Welcome back for the early May garden explosion, here at Tom's Rescue Chickens and Vegetable Garden. It's early May, and wow, things have really leapt forward since our mid-April tour. If you saw that video, you'll remember we checked on the new Brassicas, looked inside the Polytunnel, and showed off the new chicken run cover. Today, we'll revisit all those areas to see some amazing growth. Plus, I'll show you what new summer crops are going in the ground. We'll tackle some typical May challenges, including some pesky aphids on the cherry tree. And of course, see how the girls are doing. So let's get stuck in. Right, let's start with the Brassicas, the cabbages and cauliflowers we planted out a few weeks back. They have put on some growth, which is good to see, but unfortunately the snails have found them. You can see some damage here on the outer leaves where they've been having a good munch. It's frustrating, but Brassicas can often be quite tough. As long as the central growing point isn't damaged, there's still hope they'll recover and grow strongly enough to shrug this off. So, I'm just going to remove some of these worst affected lower leaves for now, just tidying them up to hopefully make them less inviting for more slugs and snails. We'll keep a close eye on them. Still keeping them netted, of course. Essential protection mainly against the pigeons at the moment, although it will be crucial later when the cabbage white butterflies properly emerge. We're also checking under the leaves for any early signs of caterpillars. Looking clear on that front for now, thankfully. And the peas. They're really starting to climb now. These are the varieties we looked at in April, and you can see plenty of flowers appearing, which is fantastic news. Hopefully, pods won't be far behind. I've made sure their supports are nice and sturdy. Nearby, the strawberry plants transplanted last year are looking bushy and flowering well. We also decided to boost the patch a bit. As I mentioned, we might need to in a previous video, so we've added some new shop-bought plants in between them. And honestly, there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying plants from a garden centre or shop if you need to. Not everything has to be grown from seed, especially at this time of year when, let's face it, everyone's probably incredibly busy getting their own garden sorted. These little extras just help ensure we get a decent harvest. Hopefully, between the old and new, we'll get a good crop this year. Fingers crossed. The onions are definitely starting to swell at the base now, pushing the soil away slightly. Exactly what we want to see. The garlic is standing tall and strong with lots of healthy green tops, as it's been growing since winter. For the hard-neck varieties like this one, the next stage I'm looking out for is the appearance of the scapes. That's the curly flower stalk that shoots up from the centre later on, usually around late May or June. We often remove those to help the bulbs swell, and the broad beans, which survived those winter storms, are covered in flowers. Look closely, you can even see the first tiny pods starting to form. Must check the tips for black fly later. Now the potatoes. The early varieties in the ground have put on masses of leafy growth. Look at this. It means it's definitely time for another earthing up. We do this to protect the developing potatoes from sunlight, stop them turning green, and encourage more tubers to form up the covered stem. The main crop potatoes in the buckets are also growing strong. They don't need earthing up in the same way. Both lots will need plenty of water from now on too, especially if we get a dry spell. Just a quick look at the beetroot and celeriac sown earlier, showing steady growth, and the turnips are establishing well too, all looking promising. Let's pop into the polytunnel. The tomato plants have put on a fair bit of growth since mid-April. I've started side shooting the cordon varieties to focus energy into fruiting stems. The dwarf marigolds I hope to plant among them. Well, I had a bit of a germination issue, so I've had to re-sow them. They're very small at the moment, and some aren't even in the ground yet, but fingers crossed they'll catch up and still do their job deterring pests later on. Now the experimental early melons, they're still quite small, but they're alive. It's probably a bit early for them, but it's fun to try. The dwarf French beans we planted as companions are growing nicely. And the sweet pepper plants are looking healthy too, hopefully. They'll enjoy the extra warmth in here. Okay, reality check time. May also brings its challenges. The slugs and snails are definitely making their presence felt, especially after any rain. You can see the telltale slime trails and nibbled edges here. I might have to get those yeast and flower traps back out again. You might remember I did a video showing how effective those can be a while back. And the weeds. Gosh, they grow fast now, especially things like bunweed and couch grass. You really have to keep on top of them now before they smother everything. I'm also checking for aphids, particularly on the tender tips of the broad beans. Yes, a few starting here. Might need a spray with soapy water later. And it's not just the beans. The aphids are really having a go at the cherry tree this year. Look at this. Loads of them clustered on the new shoots, and you can see the ants farming them, protecting them in exchange for the sugary honeydew they excrete. The main damage you see is this leaf curl. Aphids feed by sucking the sap out of the most tender new growth. This feeding damage, and sometimes chemicals in their saliva, distorts the leaf tissues as they try to expand, causing them to curl up and protecting the aphids inside. It weakens the tree, can reduce fruit production, and the sticky honeydew can also lead to sooty mold growing on the leaves. So what can we do naturally? Well, for starters, don't underestimate simply squishing them with your fingers if you can reach them. It's surprisingly effective for small outbreaks. A strong jet of water from the hose can also blast a lot of them off, especially if you catch it early. For a more persistent approach, a spray made with neem oil is a good organic option. Neem oil works in several ways. It disrupts the aphids' feeding, growth, and ability to reproduce, and it can also suffocate them on contact. You usually buy it as a concentrate, so it's really important to mix it correctly according to the instructions, often needing a little horticultural soap to help it emulsify with the water. Always do a test spray on a small inconspicuous area first to check for any leaf sensitivity. When you spray, make sure to get thorough coverage, especially under the leaves where aphids hide. It's best to apply it in the early morning or late evening when temperatures are cooler to avoid scorching the leaves, and when beneficial insects like bees are less active. Repeat applications every 7 to 10 days are usually needed to break the aphid life cycle. Now, tackling the aphids directly is one thing, but we also need to address the ants that are farming them. Remember how they protect the aphids from predators. Stopping the ants climbing the tree can make a big difference. Applying a sticky band around the trunk is the best way to do this. The ants can't cross it to get up to the aphids. And alongside all that, encouraging natural predators is always beneficial. We often think of adult ladybirds, but it's actually their larvae, the little alligator-looking young ones, that are the most voracious aphid eaters. Attracting them and other helpers like lacewings is key for long-term balance. I'm planning a whole video dedicated to beneficial insects and their larvae soon, so keep an eye out for that one. It's definitely something I need to get onto soon with this cherry tree. But May is primarily about getting those summer staples planted. It's finally warm enough for beans. Over here I'm planting French beans. I've put up these sturdy supports, essential for climbing varieties. I usually pop a couple of module sown seedlings at the base of each cane, just for insurance. Giving them a good water in. And the courgettes. These I'm sowing in a couple of containers as I'm running out of room. This way I can move them about the garden so they don't get in the way. They need plenty of space as they get massive. I'll give them a good watering and they're ready to grow. It's also a good time for succession sowing to keep harvest coming. I'm putting in another short row of quick growing lettuce here. Just keeping those harvests ticking over. And let's check on the girls and their run improvements. How are they finding the clear cover we added last month? Well, it definitely seems to be keeping the worst of the rain off this section, giving them a dry area even on wet days, while still letting loads of light in. They seem quite happy scratching about underneath it. All looking healthy and enjoying the spring, though I still have to be careful they don't find a way into the main veg patch. They're a lovely bunch, these rescues. Looking ahead to the summer, while I'm planning a little break from rescuing specifically, I'm thinking about potentially adding a few more girls to the flock. Perhaps some different breeds, just to add a splash more colour and interest around the coop. We'll see how those plans develop, but it could be exciting. Also, don't forget you can keep up with the coop adventures by joining their live stream. They're online most days, depending on the internet. And the moment we've waited for the first proper harvest. Look at this. These radishes were sown just a few weeks ago. It might not be a huge amount yet, but honestly, nothing beats that first taste of something fresh you've grown yourself. It makes all the weeding and slug patrols worthwhile. That really signals the start of the productive season. So there we are, the early May update. A real period of explosive growth compared to mid-April. The brassicas, early potatoes, onions, garlic and beans are all powering ahead. We've got the first summer crops like French beans and courgettes in the ground now, and the polytunnel is filling up, even if the marigolds are taking their time. We're tackling the slugs, weeds and those cherry tree aphids as best we can using natural methods, and the chickens are enjoying their covered run, with maybe some new friends joining them later in the summer. Overall, despite the challenges, the garden is heading nicely into the main growing season. Thanks ever so much for joining me for this garden tour today. What's your biggest success or challenge in the garden this May? I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. If you enjoyed this update, please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to Tom's Rescue Chickens and Vegetable Garden to follow along through the rest of the season. And look out for that upcoming video on beneficial insects. Until next time, take care and happy gardening.